All right, so shall we get started? Welcome, everyone. People will be joining in gradually, it seems. But let me bring up today's agenda. So we have, I'm sure everyone received this email this morning. So today is the last DEVA meeting of 2024. Thanks everyone for joining today. The agenda will be introductions, followed by EV hot topics, followed by a presentation by Guy Hall, followed by another presentation by Dalal, followed by the second half of Guy's presentation, and then there's some discussion of planning for 2025. So for introductions, I'll go first. My name is Brandon. I am the campaign coordinator for Cool Davis. I handle a lot of the day-to-day and week-to-week, month-to-month stuff. Nice to meet everyone, if I haven't met you before. Who wants to go next?
I'll just go.
And I'll
Maddie?
remind everybody to stay where they're from, and if they have an electric vehicle, what kind, or if you have a question that you brought with you tonight, it's always nice to hear that at the top of the meeting.
My name is Maddie Davis, and I'm the AmeriCorps Fellow at Cool Davis, serving in the Neighbor to Neighbor program, building neighborhood capacity, and I mostly bike everywhere.
Hi, my name is Sandra Hemingway. I am actually visiting from New Mexico, but I used to be here in Davis and part of the DEVA group, so I'm just checking in to say hi. I have a Bolt EV myself, and my husband has a Model Y, and our 10-month-old will eventually have like the model something of some car. First car is gonna be
And I'd like to add that you met your current husband. The first meeting, you both drove up in Bolt.
EV. Yep. Bolts are matchmakers.
My name is Eugene Dunlap. I'm from Davis, been a long time EV driver. I drive at the moment a Hyundai Ioniq 5.
I'm Bob Perrin from Vacaville. I drive the 2023 Fisker Ocean One. And it's doing fine. Anybody
That
got
was gonna be the first
questions?
question asked, yeah.
Yeah, it's still 2.0. It hasn't been upgraded yet, 2.2, but we should be doing it pretty good. And pretty soon. And I am interested in Ash's presentation for the training. For the Chargerhelp training on EV chargers, because I'm finding more and more broken chargers. And I have experience with the first fast charger in Vacaville.
It was in California, wasn't it?
First in the state,
Yeah.
and it's still there, and it's still broken.
It's still the first in the country.
Yeah,
First in the country.
it was put in several years ago, and it's still there, but it's never, city Vacaville.
So I am Guy Hall, and with us, not just DEVA, but also Sacramento Electric Vehicles. I've been driving the car since 2010, electric car. And we have now a Tesla Model X and Model Y and a Nissan Leaf. And my wife particularly loves the Nissan Leaf or anything around town. That's her go-to car. And when we first got that Nissan Leaf, or actually to put a precursor to it, the first Nissan Leaf, we had arguments in the family as to who got to drive it. I said, I bought a brand new Nissan Leaf, I get to drive it. Sandra Hemingway over there said, well, she was having to commute to school and had to go longer. Wouldn't that be better for the environment if I let her drive the car? I mean, I brought a brand new car and it's my wife, my daughter that gets to drive it. I thought that was terribly unfair. But she now has her own. So, anyway, or actually we skipped Grace.
So I'm Chris Granger. I'm the executive director with Cool Davis.
I have a Toyota Prius plug-in, the first ones, you know, they get a whole 12 miles, but you know, it gets me around town. And my husband drives a 2015 Leaf. We bought both of our vehicles used at great, wonderful discounts. And I highly recommend that as a way to get your first vehicle. I'm so glad to see everybody tonight.
And your turn.
Oh, yeah, I'm new here and just, I have, the Model Y from Tesla and previously I have, Model 3 and we really like it. And I think, this is, directions and, the charging or something, sometimes, you know, it's not, necessarily, very, convenience or the easy to find, you know, so other than the supercharging, I know it's good. So I like to learn all this, what we can do. And my daughter's at UC Davis and her major is mechanical engineering. And she also the president of the Formula team. And they use the electric car, so I would like to learn more of the use cases, you know, for this kind of. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming.
Yeah.
So, who online wants to go next?
And you wanna call them out? I mean.
All right. Ash, wanna go?
Yeah,
And then-
along that note, I'm Ash Dalal. I am the friendly neighborhood EV engineer. So always open to ask any or answer any technical questions. Been in the space for a while, as everyone knows. So yeah, I have my own consulting business. Right now I'm doing a lot of work and all over the place, but the discussion we'll have today with the California Mobility Center will be hopefully useful for everyone. But yeah, I also help with the Formula team on campus too, so I probably know your daughter, as well as the rest of the team, and along with their eco car program as well too, which is their Cadillac Lyric project that they're working on. So yeah, happy to answer any questions afterwards, but look forward to talking to everyone today.
Thanks, Aaron.
But I still can't afford an EV, so.
All right, Bryce, you're up next.
Okay, Bryce Nesbitt. I'm an electrical engineer actually, and with a lot of focus on high reliability systems. However, I did not design your broken charger. Not my fault. All my stuff is still working. So I came here, I was introduced to Guy Hall through the EV Charging for All Coalition, which was formed, you've probably heard about it a zillion times, but to try to bring the home charging experience to people who are renters and apartment renters. And I'm introducing a new product in that space to try to make it much more like charging at home when you're at your apartment. Anyway, I'm also happy to answer any electrical questions, and I can tell you why your public EV charger probably isn't working, but I can't actually fix it.
Great, thanks, Bryce. Okay, Aaron, would you like to go next? No.
You're muted, Aaron.
If you'd like to talk, no, okay,
Okay.
all right. Chris Jacobson, would you like to introduce yourself? No, all right. Johannes, are you there?
I am.
Hey.
There I am.
Well-
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jan Trost. I'm a member of the board of Cool Davis. And I love this group. We own a Chevy Bolt. And it's transformed the way we drive and how we drive in terms of not only just that it's electric, but how we have another vehicle and we choose to use the Bolt for almost everything, unless we go on a longer trip. And that is, we're waiting for more range in the vehicles, as I think a number of people are. But we have the Bolt and it gets us to probably 95% of the places we need to go right now. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Johannes. Okay, Ari, are you there, Ari?
I am. Good evening. I'm gonna keep my video off. I'm cooking dinner actually for the kids. Yeah, so I have a Hyundai Kona EV. Very happy with it. One of the things I'm looking into now is could use some suggestions or advice is getting an L2 charger for the home so I can charge a little faster and best timing for that too.
Great, good to have you, Ari. I'm sure we can get your questions answered, or try to at least.
Thank you.
All right, Zachary, you're up.
Yes, hi. I'm Zach O'Donnell. I live in Davis, and we have a Ioniq 5 and a Santa Fe plug-in hybrid. So satisfied with both vehicles, but we have charger anxiety. We don't really have range anxiety. We have charger anxiety, like I've heard of some people saying here about finding going to a place for superchargers and not having to wait for a long time, or constantly going someplace and they're always full, those kinds of things. But other than that, the vehicles perform great and we're very satisfied. So I'm very interested to hear more about where chargers might be installed, public chargers might be installed, or things to improve home charging, etc. Thanks.
Thank you, Zachary. Okay, Jerry. your turn.
Hi, I'm Jerry Pohorsky, president of the Silicon Valley chapter of the Electric Vehicle Association. Right now, I'm driving on El Camino Real in Santa Clara. So I've got my video turned off and I've got my Bluetooth earbuds on. I'm currently driving a 22-year-old car. It's a 2002 RAV4 EV. Several municipalities used to get these by the dozen back in the day, and there's still a few of them on the road. This one's got just under 70,000 miles on it, still going on the original batteries from 2002. But I've just applied to get a lease on a Kia EV6, so I'm kind of waiting to hear back on that because I saw a deal where you can get it for like $159 a month and then about $4 grand down for a 2-year lease. So I don't want to get anything that's too old, and I don't want to get a brand new one other than the lease. So the $7,500 rebate, I can't afford the price of a new car. And on the used car, I can't get an EV6 for $25,000. So that lease is my only option at this point to get any kind of a deal.
See. Okay, well, thank you for introducing yourself, Jerry. And lastly, but not least, Tom Finn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Tom. I've been in Davis about 20 years. I've got a Chrysler. It's a van. It's a plug-in van. At the time I got it in 2020, it was the only van that had a plug. And you can drive it around. It's a normal van, but I do camp in it. I've also got a 2014 Prius non-plug, just works well, so keeping it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Is that a plug-in Pacifica?
Yeah, it plugs in, right? So it gets about 33 or 34 miles before you need to use gas. So I don't know, probably almost half of my trips, or probably more than that, actually, or no need to use any gas.
Cool, thank you, Tom. All right, so now that we made all our introductions, we can move on to EV hot topics. This is generally the section that we relegate for group discussion before we jump into presentations. I know some of us already had some questions that they wanted answering. Did anyone want to jump in and start? Any kind of new things on the horizon for the EV industry, new models, or just questions? Go ahead, Bryce.
I've been deep in the building and electrical codes, and one of them, the new coming code, will affect sort of enthusiasts. Anyone here installed their own EV charger? Anyone? 2?
No.
2.5? The National Electric Code is voting this month, December, on a new rule that would require that EV chargers be installed only by qualified persons. Which will mean it won't necessarily stop people from installing an EV charger, but it means that you can no longer get an electrical permit for it. I feel this rule is unwise. I understand why the rule was put there, because they're concerned about people with doing it incorrectly. But the solution may be worse than the problem. So
How soon does it go into
too,
effect?
the cost of the electricians, is now a function of that too, where an apprentice versus a master level person now is being billed $50 an hour versus $150 an hour, but the only person certified to do that will be the $150 an hour. So the person who's going to be paying for that is the customer as well too. So that's also become quite the challenge.
How soon does that go into effect?
that rule is not going to be into effect until in the 2026 code cycle. There's a number of other building code issues that are unfavorable that'll come sooner, but that one seemed to be most relevant to sort of an enthusiast group. What they'd like you to do is they'd like you to take this EV ITP training, but that's only available to licensed electricians, and it's a 20-hour course with a proctored exam.
So Bryce, that's national standards?
That's the National Electric Code, and I'll quote it in the chat, the exact language that's being voted on. And that's at the second draft stage, which means that if it passes this ballot, which it is almost certain to, it is not subject to further comment. It's subject only to an appeal.
So if you were to install a NEMA 1450 in your home, that does not take the same level, correct?
Well, this is this is one of the reasons that the rule is really extra stupid. Because, I mean, it's extra stupid. So a hardwire install is less hazardous. There's no exposed wiring. You can't touch the prongs. It's less connections. It's actually just easier and safer. Installing a 1450 under the rule for purposes of EV charging will be prohibited. So you'll have to play a game where you install a NEMA 1450 for that second dryer.
Welder.
Welders are different. But anyway, yeah, it's going to encourage some level of fiction. And I don't think that fiction is a good thing in electrical safety.
Okay. So to be clear, the permitting for any municipality would allow for a lower level technician to install 1450 as long as it's not for EV charging.
Oh, right. Yeah, but a professional couldn't get away with that. A professional couldn't install a 1450 that they know is for EV charging.
Right. But the customer signs off on it, says it's not for EV charging. I just need a 1450 to put in my garage. Can you do it? And
yeah,
if
maybe.
there's no questions asked, then there's no questions asked.
Well, sure, but the elephant in the room is that, you know, the National Electric Code does not apply to people who don't get permits.
I see.
You just hire a handyman to go install, to rewire your entire house. You're not under, you don't follow if you're not following the code, you're not following the code.
Well, it could be, let's be clear, that could be, in itself could be quite dangerous.
Well, so, yeah, but then also you're leaving yourself up for a problem with lack of insurance. Not covering any problem you have with an accident.
That is certainly a risk. I think that's why I think this is such an unwise move. I think it's pushing people away from the permit system, where we should in fact be embracing them and teaching them how to properly torque terminals.
Is there going to be a public comment period for this, you were saying?
The public comment period has ended, and the next I'm considering working on an appeal. It's called a NITMAM, and I am considering appealing this rule.
Right.
Notice of intention to make a motion, and that appeal will be due in February.
Bryce, do you know if any states are interested in appealing? Is there any, you know, I mean, states like California and the other states in the West Coast and Massachusetts, you know, all of the entities that are really focused on, you know, bringing more EVs into the market and into people's homes. Is there any action by any of the states on this? Did they comment? Do you know?
No states commented. A couple of electricians commented, saying that it was nonsense, but no states got involved. And the vote was quite lopsided. I think it was 26 to 1 in favor. So I think this is probably a done deal, really.
Without any real understanding of what they're doing to the.
Right. Yeah,
situation.
because that the code making process involves regulators, equipment manufacturers, and testing agencies. There is no representation, there's no grassroots representation, there's no housing code advocates. Those people are not at the table. And the public comment is quite rapidly disposed of.
Mhm.
What little there is, in fact, even to comment on the electrical code requires quite a Byzantine approach. I walked several people through signing up for it. And let's just say that the barrier is much higher than sending an email. I'll clip the exact language if someone wants to take action. Maybe when I do have that NITMAM, maybe I'll come back and seek additional signatories to that appeal.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, that's a pretty important update. Would anyone else like to chime in and anything that we should know of or they want to talk about?
Any questions about, any future EV purchasing for anybody EV curious?
I have a question. Does anybody know what is happening with the Chevy Bolts for 2025? And what kind of range they might have? That's one question. The second question is the stacked battery storage and use models that they're experimenting with now. What might be the expected range on that and how soon?
Maybe someone knows better than I do, but my understanding is that they've stopped production of the Bolt until 2026. And that will use a whole different undercarriage, if you like. The whole platform will be completely different from charging to suspension, frame and such. But I think they pretty much have stopped doing the current model. Does anybody else have anything different on that?
Oh, they've definitely discontinued the current model. They're no longer producing it. And the new generation Bolt is supposed to be on a completely different battery platform.
Well, it's the same battery platform, the Ultimum or whatever they call it, as their Blazer and Equinox.
Yep.
And that means also they charge faster and quick charging.
The Bolt is a relatively older architecture and older product, but it's a marvelous one, and it's got a great price point. But they have stopped production on that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions about EVs, charging?
Yeah, I mentioned I'm trying to figure out L2 chargers. I'm wondering what a reasonable, one question is what's a reasonable price range in Davis, assuming like a hardwired connection and no circuit upgrades, just, putting a breaker in, and anyone has experience with that or knows an electrician that can handle it.
The breaker on the other side of the garage, in the garage area immediately, or is it across the other side of the house?
I was going to put it on the driveway just adjacent to the panel. So that's pretty much where we park the car. So
Why don't you put in a plug?
I could put a plug in, but it's outdoors and I think it's safer and more reliable to do a hardwired. The charger doesn't particularly care other than for the car we have. But
yeah.
Well, it's yours, if you have a plug and the chargers change or break, it's just easier to switch them out.
Yeah, so what do you think? I mean, outdoors plug or charger? I don't, I guess that's one question too. If there's any.
So there's a great resource for you. If you go to Reddit and
Yeah.
create an account, Reddit r/EV charging, upload some pictures of your install, and a whole bunch of people will pound in and give you conflicting advice. That group is generally pro hardwiring because of the reduced number of connection points and failure points, but they'll give you good advice, and they'll ask you to open up your electrical panel and take a photograph of the inside and point out any existing weaknesses. It's really a pretty good service.
Okay.
I would advise, again, if you're doing it yourself, and really make sure you have an electrician, if you're doing especially if you're doing a plug, you really want to make sure you don't create a fire hazard.
Yeah, I do want to hire an electrician. I don't want to mess with those voltages and.
Yeah. And I'm not telling you to DIY it, but you can learn quite a bit about what your options are.
Yeah.
And does anyone have experience with just typical price range here? You go online, it's like national prices, and it's kind of like I don't know how much the permits are and stuff. Does anyone?
Well, the price of the charger itself will vary depending on how many amps you want to run through it.
Yeah.
The base charger is probably maybe what others can chime in on this, but I'd say, around $300, maybe $400 in that range. And the electrician to do it, to cover his costs from coming out, running and getting the permit and such. And maybe the special training that Bryce is talking about. Is another thing, and that may cost what, 500, 2,000, I don't know. Bryce, you have any good numbers, or Eugen, if you have any good numbers on that?
I figure you can't get a licensed contractor out who'll actually take liability for under $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also, in terms of speed, the electricians will steer you towards a 50 amp, maybe NEMA 1450, because it's easy for them. But if you're parking there overnight and the vehicle is there for, 8, 10-ish hours a night, or you work from home, then you can get away with just a 20 amp charger. It's going to be fine.
Agreed. That's all we've ever used really at our home.
Yeah, and the other thing you should look into is PG&E rates, if you're gonna put in an EV charger.
Yeah, I did switch the rates already, so.
Oh, so also checking with PG&E. Are you a PG&E?
Yeah, I'm a PG&E customer.
They have some incentives for putting in a charger.
Hmm.
I think it's like $1,000.
Well, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you qualify, I was looking at like the tax credit and stuff that you can get 30% off the charger and install.
Yeah, but I think they also give,
This is on top of that. The PG&E rebate is on top of that.
yeah.
Okay, I'll check again. Thank you.
They have rebates that for income qualified and for anybody. I think the $1,000 is for anybody, then it goes higher if you have lower income.
Yeah, they definitely have 1,000 off on the car, but I'll check again to see if they have more on for the charger.
No, on the
No,
car,
that's
they
the-
have 4,000 off.
On
On
the
used cars.
PG&E.
Yeah,
Is
PG&E
PG&E.
PG&E has 4,000 off on a used car.
And PG&E will chip in $1,000 non-income qualified on a used car on top of the federal 4,000.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
yeah, we got a used car, so that was the.
Yeah, you have to file the PG&E within 60 days or 30 days of purchasing the vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking your question, Ernie. Okay, does anyone have anything else they want to mention before we move on to the next segment?
Only that there's hot cider. Anybody here would like to have some.
Oh yeah, we have hot cider here.
One thing to drink.
So if you can get here in the next hour, you can have some hot cider.
Well, I guess I might mention that we have a news celebrity in the group here. Aaron was interviewed and was, did a segment on our review on which station was that? I don't know if it's Channel 3 or Channel 10? Channel 3. So I heard that it went really, really well, and it was a great interview.
Cool, thanks, Guy.
Oh, Erin, you need to unmute.
No, she doesn't.
Oh.
Just once.
Okay.
Okay, so before we move into the presentations, I wanted to mention our annual DEVA survey is up and running. So if you take a moment, whether it be now or at the end of the meeting, I will put the link in chat. This will help us gauge what our planning for the coming year. We'd appreciate it if you take the survey when you have a moment. But just to go through it quickly, I will share my screen for everyone to see. So there we go. So this is a quick run through of the survey. We ask for your EV status, basic information, out of it notifications, participation questions. Yeah, you get the gist. Anyway. So, I believe we're moving on to our first presentation from Guy. Is that
Right,
correct?
you hand me the info there and
Yep, I will bring up.
started the. Might be nice, actually, the first slide.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up the PowerPoint. I have the videos up too for when you want them played.
You're in the middle of the presentation area. Okay, is that full screen for people or?
Can everyone see that?
Let's go to slide mode.
Slideshow
Yeah,
from beginning, all right.
yeah, and.
All right, everyone can see that, correct? Give it a moment here.
There we go.
All right.
So I'm gonna flip the first half and second half, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hit some of these things that kind of up front.
Sure.
And one of the first things to do is Consumers Reports had just done a survey across the country with potentially car buyers and about their perspectives and beliefs and feelings about electric vehicles. And this was done only a few months ago, so it's quite new. And they looked at potential customers that are looking not just at plug-in hybrids and full battery electrics, but also regular hybrids. And they want to try to understand from the customer's perspective what their issues are and what their concerns are and where they stood. And let's see, make sure we've got this.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? So what's
All plugged in there?
Yeah, you're plugged
Did you can we flip around? Maybe I'll still give it laptop and do it here instead.
Just press the arrow piece.
Got it. Thank you. All right, so and the interesting thing, a couple key points came out. One is that half, and this is really important for us, half would be interested in at least test driving a BEV when shopping for the next vehicle. So that's a pretty open perspective that they're would be willing to commit to doing at least a test drive.
So a guy that means, we've been wondering, is what we're doing worth it? When we, all the work we're doing to connect people to vehicles and dealers, that's.
Exactly, that's critically, and that's
Yeah.
the key part of this message, is what our impact on this. And they're willing, and this is another key point that's right along that line, Chris, that willingness to get an EV increases as their experience with EVs in terms of other, probably engaging others that know about EVs. So the more people they talk to or that have EVs, their likelihood of buying an EV goes up, and that shouldn't surprise us. And third is that they generally want more information about plug-in hybrids and full battery electrics. And if you think about, I wonder what kind of information are they asking for? These are the top, the top six. And none of them really are big surprises. First, the concern about the battery longevity, how long will the battery life last, and we're gonna have to, it's gonna be, I'm not gonna have to replace it and incur an expense on that. What's the general cost of ownership? Is a lot of them are coming in having no idea what to expect with the cost of an EV. We know they're cheaper to operate, but most people coming in have no idea. And it's not just the maintenance, it's also insurance, the fuel savings and such. Third, that's of the top three, think of as the range, hear about the range anxiety, and not just the EPA range, but the real world range. And then secondarily as such is, but still high, close to 45%. The people home charging, understanding about that is sometimes often they will not know even what questions to ask about home charging. It's a completely new area for them. Tax credits and rebates, boy, that's a dynamic and changing field. So it becomes a burden on us to make sure we always try to provide recent current information. Public charging, and especially when we talk about, they will have heard how long it takes to charge a car in public charging versus a gas pump. So it's really becomes important for us to help shift that around, reorientate that's say we're no longer going to the gas station. This idea of the weekly trip to the gas station is disappeared if you charge while you sleep. However, if you're on a road trip, that's where the public charging comes in, and then we say it's equivalent to a Starbucks coffee or lunch break, that kind of thing. So, but these are the key questions areas that they have questions on. Now, as Chris was saying, we need participation from people that have got EV experience, firsthand experience that they can share at these events, at meetings, across, just with your neighbors and your family members. We need to make sure we keep engaging there and help them be more clear and a better understanding. And lots of times when we do that, when we go to events, they can be fun. This is a wide variety of events. Let's have fun while we're doing them. And these are things everybody wants to, when people look at jobs and they look at their life, they want to think that they're making a difference. And we can see the difference that we make, and that as the EV adoptions go up, especially as they rise faster in our area than the rest of the world. So I thought there might be a sign-up sheet if we have that. Well, I think everybody here's already signed up, but please join us as Brandon sends out future invites for meetings coming up, the pop-ups, the market. Great, but have fun doing these things. They're blast you out and meet people. And people will come to you with real questions, and they want to hear what others say. And what the real experience.
I think it's not quite covered. So where I live at Mere Commons, we've hit a barrier at 12, 13 vehicles. And when people go for a used car, I don't know, do the dealers turn them around and say, sell them another ICE car or something? I mean, I've really wondered what that barrier is. Because they're all aware they have their own charger. And we hit a barrier.
It's surprising how impactful dealerships are and how persuasive they can be. You know, thinking, oh, I'm not gonna buy a car. You drive out with keys in your hand. And they're masters that they practice it over and over and over again. So, especially with, I think Chris and I, when we've talked to dealers in the past, they love selling used cars though. And used EVs are particularly, have a higher margin than new EVs. That surprised us. I don't know if you were surprised. I certainly was. To hear a dealership saying, oh, I'd much more prefer selling a used car, because I get more money in that deal than in a new car. So anyway, we can talk a little bit about that as we get to the other section. So let's take a quick look at how sales are doing. They're still increasing. All right, we got the third quarter results just in a couple weeks ago. And this is Yolo County, which I know is certainly more than Davis, but gives a little bit of a feeling. That we've already got, sort of over 8,000 EVs that were purchased in Davis.
No, in Yolo County,
I'm coming, you're right, thank you. That's exactly the thing, I didn't know anything.
close to half of those, or more than half of those are Davis cars.
Well, is that about the ratio about that? And we'll hit probably about 8,500 by the end of the year, well, another couple of weeks, because this is the data from the end of Q3.
That's really.
All right, and then these are the top makes and models that have been sold in Q3. No surprise, Tesla's leading the pack, but the Rivian is following it, followed closely by Chevy with their they're bringing a couple new products on the market, the Equinox and the Blazer and such. And you can see how the bold EV, EV and EUV, those numbers have dropped down significantly, not because they're not desired, but because there's not a lot of availability left.
Guy, is that all new vehicles or is that inclusive of used vehicles that are being transferred?
Great question that these are all new vehicles. So it's not transferring, not resale, not even to a dealership. These are only new EVs that are registered for the first time at the DMV.
So that's trend, but when we look at registrations, it's, you know, we're looking at all the vehicles.
Yes, and we'll get new registration data at the end of, I think it's the end of January.
Right, for the year end.
For year end. Yeah, they only do those, they do the sales on a quarterly basis. Registrations are on an annual basis, typically a month or 2 months after the end of the year.
So, what are these growth compared to the non-EV sales?
I happen to have, I think I have them.
I mean,
Oh,
they grew faster
don't have-
than
They're, right now, they're in Yolo County, they're about 24%. So almost 1/4 of the sales are EVs. I mean, that's surprising. People don't really recognize it, that's that prevalent.
And that's the outreach. A lot of it's the outreach.
I think that's a lot of it. We can take some credit for that.
And I think everybody thinks that we've crossed some new threshold in the last couple of years in terms of adoption, that there's a level of adoption now that people are participating at.
Yeah, going from the concern is we're going from the early adopters who are willing to take risk and to stretch and try new things and experiment, to the early majority, which are those that just, well, they will need a car to get from one point to another and be reliable and safe. They're more conscious, less likely to risk. So it just makes our engagement all that more important. So that they are more confident going in and know what they're signing up for, and that it's a very viable, doable exercise to purchase one, to operate it. So what are the ones, then I looked at what were the new cars that are starting to appear for the first time in the county. And the Rivian trucks for Amazon at the top of the list. They started brand new, they just started delivering these in Yolo County, about 70 of them. And I'm sure they'll be climbing quickly. And there's another Mercedes has got also a van, but I'm not sure what the primary purpose, the target market is for that. Second is the Cybertruck. There are 24 Cybertrucks that were sold in Q3. So love them or hate them, I hear both. I had the chance to drive one for a week, swap cars for a week. And it's a big car, but there were some things about it I absolutely loved. And some things I wasn't so keen about, but they certainly brings in a lot of new technology besides the styling. Even ignoring the styling aspect, it brings in a lot of internal new technology, which is really cool. You've got the Kia EV9 just right behind that. You can start seeing those around town. And the Prologue, Honda's really first good EV. And they actually, I brought one to the SAC EV meeting in November. And brought it up on stage, and the sales rep was there to talk about it. Looks like a nice car. I'm really impressed with the Kias too. They look pretty darn good. And then there's the Equinox, new entry by Chevy, and with it, the Blazer, those two different vehicles that are now starting to be on the road, so keep an eye out for these. And of course, those are the ones we want to try to get to some of the pop-ups. The little EV showcases that we do, so to show people, give them the variety. It's not just Bolts and Teslas. There's about 110, I think it is, last count, 110 EV models out there. Lot to choose from. And then some that are just starting to scratch the surface, including you gotta get an Alfa Romeo in. Well, I wanna see that.
I wanna see.
Yeah.
That's
And
spelled incorrectly.
what's that?
Yeah, it's spelled.
Oh, did I get it right? Oh, yeah.
The VinFast, that's from Vietnam, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And it's not,
I've seen it.
we've had it actually at the, one of the big SAC EV meetings, not meetings, but, events, showcases. They're not, just, you think if you've never heard them before, you may think, well, they're just another EV startup. They are doing massively and developing and producing cars for many years. And have got quite a good reputation. So. It'll be fun to see those. Romeo. And we talked about charging. Well, the charging, so. In the. Recently looking, now there are about 15 in the Davis region, and I'm not very accurate in defining exactly what the Davis region is. But sort of around this area, there are about 15 charging plazas. And of those, you'll bring up, DMV says there are about 76 fast charging handles. Right, and many of the plazas have, 8 different fast chargers.
Yeah, but that could be confusing because the Electrify America ones, they have 2 handles and only one of them works.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how they measure that. I don't know if they count that as 2 handles or 1 handle. That's a really good question. You would think, you'd hope that they do the number of simultaneous charges
Yeah,
that take place. But
and reduce the power or something, but.
yeah. So that would be worth, we ought to dig in and ask them about that. But the key is that there is, considering that you mostly charge it at home, the key there is that you may not need as many as you would at gas stations. All right. So.
And Guy, there's
Yeah, please.
Exciting to me news, since I drive a Bolt and I go up to the mountains sometimes. The Tesla supercharger now has, in Rockland, Magic Dock. So that means I can use my credit card and charge a Bolt at a Tesla supercharger with no adapter.
And that's a really great point. In fact, even the broader one is the Chevy, you can get adapters, right, to work with the superchargers for most of the superchargers.
I have not gotten that adapter. It's available now. Yes, that's exciting. But the Magic Dock allows you to you hold the button. If you just pull it out, you get the Tesla charger. If you hold the button, it pops out 2 pieces, and it includes the adapter. It goes right into the Bolt or another EV and charges it. And only one. It's the only one in California.
No,
there's Placer's got one. Placerville has one. Yeah.
And there's 2. Last time I looked, it was the only one.
Yeah. So, thinking of that charging experience, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about charging at home. And so we're all familiar with that issue. That important, about 80% of the people charge at home. They charge while they sleep. It's vastly preferred location to charge. It's cheaper, more convenient. It's often easier on the car. And then next to that would be charging while you're at work. Then last is having to go to the gas station model like in the public charging. 5%, but it's not so, it's only much more expensive, certainly not convenient, not like as convenient as charge while you're sleeping. And that takes time out of your day. So this is the thing that we're faced with, and it's a wonderful way to keep your car fueled if you have a house with a charger. And again, most of us know that those people that live in apartments or in houses that don't have off-street parking are kind of stuck with having to then rely strictly on the public charging. And particularly, we honed in about a third of our residents in California have apartments, live in apartments and without charging. So Bryce, and he mentioned earlier, he's a member of a team that's been working for the last, I'm gonna guess 3 years, 4 years to try to change the building code so that anytime you build a new apartment complex with that, the apartments goes charging capability. So if you have charging, if you have parking, you also would have charging. So the big win that we have is that the 2025 edition for any new apartments or condos that are gonna be constructed, those have to have every apartment has to have access to charging. And that, let me qualify a little bit further. Any apartment that has parking has to have access to charging. This is, some of the newer apartments will not have as many parking spaces as they have apartment units to encourage people to do transit or other approaches or walk to work. But if you have parking, that it will have to include charging. Now, that doesn't happen right away. Well, actually, we'll come back to the timing on that moment. The other thing is that to deal with all the homes that are out there, the vast majority of homes that are not under construction now, I mean, I think the new construction affects maybe 5%. Adds 5%, 4% of the housing inventory. So it's gonna take a while for all those homes to have, for all those residents to be able to have charging. This is a change that was also made that if you have to do any changes to the parking lot or the parking structure, you gotta have, and that requires a building permit. You've got to add charging for each of those spaces that you're altering. So this is trying to be retrofit in for some of the existing inventory. The negative thing to this really is that although the final vote is going to be occurring next week and we fully expect it to pass, it really won't be in any new construction until 2026. So it'll take a while still to roll in.
That's really interesting. I'm just thinking about that big reconstruction of those Sutter Hospital parking lot where they put in solar panels, but they reconfigured the whole parking lot, and it would have been a moment, all of us were saying, well, where's the extra charging devices? And they put in some, but
I think in the non-residential building code, I think, and Bryce, you may remember this better than I do, but I think for retrofit, if it changes to the parking lot in non-res, there is still some requirement maybe for EV capable.
Yeah, there is some requirement. You should know that California has 5 building codes. And the commercial building code is completely different than the residential building code.
Right.
Well, not completely different, but it can evolve in its own way, so it has its own thresholds.
this is great.
But we'll still take this as a win. You gotta start somewhere. I mean, these things are slow.
What's also important at the local level is making sure that those building officials actually, do the work to get those codes in place and their staff up to speed.
Some of the team that was working on this, on pushing these changes are also working on trying to develop some training. Okay, now let's jump over to Ash.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. Um, got a couple of flyers I can post up, but I can also see if I can put files on the, oh, I guess I can. Let me bring them up first and I'll put them in chat, but one second here. All right, can everyone see this one here?
I'm gonna share and reshare.
Yeah, it's a glitch, visual glitch. Yeah, I can see that you're sharing on here. I think it's just that software needs time to catch up.
Can everyone see it online?
I see the introduction
Yes.
to jobs and green careers.
Okay, so we're just not seeing it here.
Okay, let me see if I can put this in chat also.
Just needs a second. Close this.
Let's see here. Chat.
Okay, there we go.
There we got it. We see it now.
You got it? Okay, perfect.
All is good.
All right, so now where did my screen go? Here we go. Here we go. All right, so again, my name is Ash. I have one of my clients here in Sacramento called the California Mobility Center. I'm sure a few of you have heard of this, me talking about this place, but it's basically what was supposed to be sort of a maker space for green mobility and green energy related companies. And we have sort of found a niche with a lot of workforce development activities, supporting the state in a lot of their efforts to, bring the, not only the underprivileged and some of the other communities in Sacramento up, but also in general, provide some opportunities for folks who are looking for new jobs and new understandings of what's on the horizon here, as things are maturing with the technology. So the state and Sacramento have been very good in supporting this, and they're trying to be more proactive and making sure that we're more proactive instead of reactive. But we all know now the concern of how much we're integrating a lot of this technology, but we're still kind of deficient on a lot of the immediate resources like mechanics and technicians and things. And so the center has been here for a few years now, and our focus has now been shifting more towards workforce development. So if anybody is in the Fruit Ridge Power In area, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll certainly be here to give you a tour or whatever you want. But what I wanted to talk about is, again, some of the things that we're offering here that I'm also instructing. And this first class that we have is offered every single month, and it's called the Introduction to Green Careers. And that is essentially kind of a top level view of some of the opportunities that are on the horizon here, not only in California, but more in the nation, but also just focusing on what is new in the sense of the new types of jobs that are focusing on, again, green energy. So when we consider, what we were talking about right now of charging systems, let's say, the energy and the power that, is generated and delivered to those charging systems to where it's now being consumed in the electric vehicle is now kind of this whole ecosystem now that has these unique opportunities that, we really hadn't seen this opportunity since the Industrial Revolution, really, when there's demand as well as this interest, but now there's financial interest to really kind of captivate, in new ingenuity, new ideas, and then move them forward to be somewhat profitable, but also now, maintain this moniker of, keeping things clean and green and kind of keeping the sustainable solution for us, so we can have a cleaner future ahead. So this first class, teaches, some of the basics of, what is out there, including hydrogen, solar, wind, and a lot of the kind of clean green energy types. And then we get into some of the discussions about electric vehicles and charging and how we've sort of changed from the typical level 1, level 2 to DC fast charging to now the new Tesla standards, and kind of giving some details about that. But one of the things you also walk away with that I just finished today with another class was OSHA 10, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration 10-hour training course, which, again, now gives you the ability to walk into any, workplace and say, I'm OSHA 10 certified. And that does a lot of value especially if you're tasked to, support any safety efforts or be any part of team at any sort of employment place that requires you to kind of create emergency action plans and such. So it's a real interesting opportunity. These are free classes. Here on the bottom here is a QR code. And again, I'll pass this sheet out to everybody. In fact, I'll probably email it to you, Brandon, if we can mail it out to everybody. More than happy to pass this out. But along with this class, we offer resume help. So for folks who are new to the field, especially we get a lot of interest from, kids coming out of high school or trying to go into college, folks who are just trying to get their foot in the door. This is a great opportunity to really kind of see, what's on the horizon, but now kind of entice people who are also entrepreneurs or folks who want to go into a job to see, what can I do that's unique to this industry that I personally like doing. So one of the things that we were also, kind of showing as an example was a student that came through that had a family-owned property up on I-5 heading towards Oregon, basically flat land that's been useless for the last 20 or 30 years almost now, they said, well, we don't know anything to do with it. We got them in touch with a company called Blue Point, and they offer turnkey solutions that now take land like that and now create high DC fast charging networks and stations. And so they have their own network of DC fast charging suppliers, the licensed technicians, the electricians, the contractors, everything. They come in, you basically get a check afterwards, and they basically lease out your land and now offer some of these opportunities. And so that's, again, something completely new, which no one has even thought of. So now I'm blending in real estate, with green energy. So again, there's a lot of these kind of parallel paths and sometimes perpendicular paths that are now crossing into this point now where we're seeing a lot of value in a lot of this training, but now it can apply to a lot of different industries. So this next one that we're offering is in the beginning of January. It is a Monday through Friday class that the OSHA part is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then the rest of the time we go over some of these discussion with some small hands-on activities. So again, I will be more than happy to talk further about that offline if necessary. But if you guys want to participate, I'm more than happy to have you over here. And again, if you want to just come by for a tour, let me know ahead of time. That way I can make sure that I'm here. And then if you feel free to go ahead and scan that code. And again, I'll pass this out afterwards. But to kind of keep the ball rolling here, I'll answer some questions afterwards here. But we also, again, really try to emphasize jobs and get folks with some form of employment. Some of the low-hanging fruit, again, isn't really necessarily affiliated directly with green energy, but those companies that still need some support, we do offer some basics like forklift training, which, normally is a $200 to $300 certification that you have to get through a couple of nearby groups that we're offering for free. So if you know anybody who just wants to get an assembly job or a warehouse job at Amazon, this is, again, a neat opportunity for folks to come in for one day, listen to the video for a few hours, and then you take the practical test and you walk out with a forklift card that you can now go to any sort of employer and say, hey, at least I have, a forklift certification. So again, not really directly affiliated with green energy, but still enough to get your foot in the door for folks who are just looking for jobs. And so we see a lot of young folks, folks with some language barriers, folks who just want to get, some employment of some sort. And here's some new dates for this coming January. But we do have some in December still. I think on the 20th is the next one. So again, there's a QR code there. Again, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, but if you're interested in signing up for that, just go to the QR code, and then that will allow you to fill out an online application. And that basically gives us the ability to connect with you and also support you for this class and anything else. But alongside this class, we do have, resume assistance, and we have a few job placement events every so often too that bring in businesses around here and help, kind of advertise what they have available to you, but also at the same time, help folks create, LinkedIn profiles, the resume helps, things in that sense that now help you market yourself a little bit better. So alongside the training to get you the skills, it's really how you market yourself now that really makes the big difference here. So again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on that. But the last item, which I think we had talked about during the introductions, was a interesting new training that we had rolled out with in about September of this year. And that's through a company called Chargerhelp. And so Chargerhelp is a nonprofit that has been developed in the Southern California region that is now aiming to increase our grid resiliency issue that we have. That is now also one of the requirements in this 2035 internal combustion engine changeover. Right now, with our grid resiliency being in the 30% range, the goal for 2035 is to have 90%, meaning that 9 out of 10 charges has to work. When right now, 3 out of 10 charges works. And again, outside of the Tesla network, outside of that network where you don't have as much, support in the sense, physical folks watching over charging systems, making sure that everything works. It's almost like going to a gas station where there's no attendant there. I've never seen a gas station that doesn't have an attendant there. Right now, we're in a world of EVSEs that don't have attendants there. So if something doesn't work, if something isn't working correctly or properly, there's no one there to answer any questions. And you assume that things are working until they don't. So right now, that issue is really plaguing a lot of people's decisions on buying EVs, as we all know. And so when you only get one initial impression, and if you're buying an EV for the first time and it doesn't charge, really doesn't give you too much confidence. So Chargerhelp has been available now to create a 3-week program that is offered in these dates here. We do have some signups here, but it's it's a fairly complex course that now teaches you the ins and outs of EVSE maintenance. And so when we consider what is required to be maintained, it's not just the connectors, which we know are plugging in, plugging out, plugging in, plugging out. So the wear and tear on those pins is also a factor, but the conditions of some of these chargers, as we all know, have also been kind of compromised with weatherability. I've had pictures when I was at EPRI of things being hit by trucks and whatnot, and they've toppled over. Any condition of these, EVSEs is what we are now seeing that is not contributing to a lot of these issues with charging. So Chargerhelp will focus on not only the theory and the concepts, but provide a lot of hands-on opportunities for students to gain the perspective of what is really necessary to maintain and service some of these systems here. So it's not an electrical contracting, sort of certification of sorts, but it is something new that, again, we'll probably see a lot more value in the job market in the coming years, if not sooner. But we're, again, trying to now develop the entrepreneurial side to say, if I were to now service these, I at least have some training with the backing of Chargerhelp. So the classes here are fairly small. They're about 15 to 20 people, so you have a good opportunity to work with the instructors. A lot of it is a mix between classroom and hands-on, so you get a mix of both throughout the day. I don't believe we are getting subsidized for any of this, but I do believe that might be a question where we at least might be able to support gas or some small expenses. And so that might be a question to ask, but I know that they're talking about that. But, again, with these time slots being in the smack dab in the middle of the day, we assume that most people that, take these classes usually don't have any other job or any other commitments otherwise. So we do see a lot of folks come through here, and they are referred to us by some of the other nonprofits in the area, including the Cal Asian Chamber of Commerce, AQMD, SMUD. I mean, all these other resources have really been supportive of this and are really excited to roll this out to see how this impacts the Sacramento area. So here's again the QR code for that. We have 2 dates coming up, January and March. And by scanning this QR code here, you now can fill out the application to sign up for it if you're interested. So we encourage folks who are, either at the fork in the road or deciding if they want a new job or new skill sets, to sign up for this. And again, this might lead into some new opportunities in the future here, but we're really excited to roll this out. And also, one thing that I don't have a flyer for that we also wanted to talk about is through a company called SPARKZ. That is a battery manufacturing company that is now forming here in Sacramento. Earlier on, I think there was talks of SPARKZ forming in the old Aerojet facility up in Sacramento, only to find that when the planning group came through to review the facility, they realized it was far more costly to renovate that facility than instead find some of these new buildings that are putting up right near Natomas, right by the airport. So SPARKZ has now developed a facility in that area, just I think in the next exit past the Sacramento airport, and some of the new commercial buildings over there, to now start a small scale battery manufacturing business that isn't going to be building car batteries, but more stationary energy storage battery solutions, and are now going to be also rolling out with additional training too for that. So look for that on the horizon in the coming months here, but that'll also be a similar 1 to 3 week kind of curriculum there, where students can now learn some of the processes and some of the methods that are specific to SPARKZ, but now can be easily available to get the job, at this facility. So it'll immediately relate to, the hiring process and get you in the doors of that company. So as we get further along with that curriculum development and that timing, I will certainly bring that up to the next meeting here. And again, open up to any questions about that as the opportunity arises. But for now, Chargerhelp is again one of the set in stone trainings that we have coming up. And SPARKZ is on the horizon next. Alongside SPARKZ, I'm also working with the CMC and some other entities to also include some additional EV certifications for mechanics and assembly work as well. So I'm creating a curriculum for the Society of Manufacturing Engineers to now create a turnkey solution for students to come in, get trained, and now actually be certified through a nationally recognized, actually a globally recognized group of SME. You can consider SME almost like SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, who were the ones that developed the original 1772 charging standard. So that kind of group is now a conglomerate between folks in the automotive industry and all sorts of different tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. SME is sort of the same aspect of it, just more in the manufacturing sense. And so look forward for that in the coming months here as well too. So again, a lot of good opportunities. I definitely encourage folks who are, at that fork in the road between college or high school or something like that, but also those who want to gain a little bit more exposure to this industry. Feel free to reach out to me and if you have any questions. But again, I'll pass these flyers out to everybody. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer right now.
So Ash, I'm curious about, because I can see the structure of these classes are geared towards either people who don't have jobs. They could be in the regular educational environment, could be going to community college and doing something. But are you thinking about doing some things for folks that are in jobs, and also would you be interested in encouraging companies to send their employees to you to be trained? I mean, this strikes me as there may be some businesses that might be interested in kind of extending, what they do as a business. And one of the ways to do that is get their employees trained.
Yeah, absolutely. So as an example, I'm working with UC Davis, like I mentioned, with some of the student projects, but also with some of the major departments in doing a lot of their high voltage safety training and some of their EV development programs. But that isn't limited to just academia. There's also a lot of businesses that are interested in moving forward too. So if there's a specific case that you know of, certainly let me know. But in the meantime, we're also considering some evening classes and some things to help for folks who have, responsibilities during the day, just can't make it during the night. The problem is, since we're grant funded, we're not for profit for anything, but we're grant funded, and some of the deliverables to the state are making sure that those folks have jobs, or get jobs. And so if you have a job and you're going through training, that doesn't close the loop on the deliverable that we have to the state. So over the last year or so, we've had a couple of programs where, we've had 30 people come through, but only 2 of them were looking for jobs, so when the state says, hey, you've had 30 people on your log here, where are those 30 jobs? Ooh, well, those 28 people already had jobs. They were just here for fun. So, we kind of had a little bit of trouble with that. So we're trying to work around to see how we can entertain, those types of folks who just want to learn, or just want to have some fun, or just want to, kickstart something new. without the pressure of getting a job, if that makes any sense. But we have a lot of businesses come through also that are interested in more focused, more acute training that is specific to their industry or specific to their business. And we have entertained a few of those projects and such. But if there's something you know of or anybody else knows of, let me know. But yeah, we do have some of that on the horizon. My usual
Ash,
10-minute answer for my 2-second question. Sorry.
Ash, what electrical experience, electrician-like experience do you require the students taking this course? And are you assuming they're coming in as already as electricians and you're doing things related to EVSCs? And then after they graduate from this course, are they able to go out and work on that kind of, those kind of electrical projects?
So that's a great question. There isn't any prerequisite that is required for the Chargerhelp curriculum. So basically the requirements, like you see over here, really just English proficiency. So that way you can comprehend some of the content, some of the safety issues as well for the OSHA part and the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Agency. So there's certain details there that are better comprehended, if you speak English well. So that's really the only requirement. Most of the students that have come through the first curriculum didn't have any electrical background or really didn't have any background. And they were really just trying to see if this would be a good fit for them. We've had a few of them start apprenticeships, in the electrical field, but they didn't have any intentions of doing that. But that doesn't say that electricians can't take this class. We just open this up to folks who have or little to no experience to kind of keep things easy, but there's no requirement for any electrical background.
You know what kind of jobs they can move into potentially upon completing the courses?
So, Chargerhelp has some ties with EVgo and some of the other kind of networks that, they're trying to get them involved to see what jobs they may have to offer, to support the training that Chargerhelp offers. And so if Chargerhelp trains the students, Electrify America, all these networks that are outside of the Tesla network, or even the Tesla network, could take advantage of these type of employees. And so that bridge hasn't been formed yet, from our knowledge, completely. It's still being worked on. So that way, when these students do graduate, and if they do succeed in these programs, they at least have somebody to knock on the door to, so we don't have any immediate jobs available that are requiring, EVSC technicians. But then again, that's where this kind of new horizon shows up to say, well, if I wanted to go out on my own, I certainly can't do any of this without being an electrician, but at least I have, my foot in the door to become an apprentice or work with an electrician, to gain those skill sets to actually become one. So, unfortunately, yeah, we don't have any requirements per se, but we also don't have too much visibility on the relationships Chargerhelp has. But from what we know, they're trying to establish, some things with some of the charging networks already.
So Ash, this is Bob Heron. Is there any problem with NDAs if there was a company like Chargerhelp to fix more than one type of charger? In other words, they'd be going down Interstate 5, fixing Clipper Creek, EVgo, Charge America, Charge Point, Blink, and they can do all of them. Like an electrician goes out and does all of them.
That's a great question. So, within every single DC fast charging solution, there is the similar analogy of Ford versus GM versus Toyota. They all take a person from A to B. They all do the same thing, but they all do something differently, So the different part of it is usually in the software, usually in the controls, or usually in some of the circuitry. What Chargerhelp really does is kind of take a step back from that and focus on the key things that are really detrimental to the performance of the EVSE in general. So connections, the plug and receptacles themselves, some of the interfaces, some of the screens sometimes don't work. These are really kind of the top level things that Chargerhelp focuses on. But beyond that, I know they're working with specific EVSE manufacturers on the DC fast charging side to not only kind of work with them to understand the software and some of the implications that they may need to work on, but yeah, they do have some ability to work with everybody, but as they're furthering along with their curriculum development, we should see more acute training per manufacturer that would require that NDA. So they would have to have, some formal relationship with, that EVSE manufacturer to learn more details about it, but they haven't gotten to that point yet.
So this is just kind of like the hardware is what you're teaching.
Exactly. Yeah. This is really just kind of scratching the surface, getting the hardware content underway. And beyond that, this is definitely going to progress. And I know they're working towards that. So this is really just kind of the first step into this world of technician work. But one that is still going to grow considerably, I think, in the next, by this year. In fact, I'm sure this is going to get a lot larger.
Yeah. And do you have any numbers of people that signed up for the January class?
I don't know offhand, but I can find out. I know we just opened up the roster just this last week, so I don't think there's very many people quite yet. So now is a good time if you're interested to sign up. But the last time it filled up fairly quickly. We had about 20 people sign up, and we had about 30 people on the wait list. And I don't know if those 30 people were signing up for this next one or not yet. But again, there's still some opportunity from what I know for this coming January. And if worst comes to worst, there's always the March class too. And I think if you are able to sign in on the application, that gives you the selection to go for the January or the March class.
Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Like I said, I'll pass these flyers out to everybody if I can figure out how. And yeah, again, open to any questions afterwards, and appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, thank you, Ash. That was very informative.
So Ash, if you send those flyers to Brandon, we'll include them in the follow-up email that goes out to the whole network, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left into the meeting. Let's see here. So I'm not sure if we have enough time for the second half of Guy's presentation today. But
Right, no, we can maybe defer that to another.
yeah, we can save that for the next meeting, the first meeting of 2025. So yeah,
There's one slide I want to put up that I think might be particularly interesting, but very quick.
yeah, yeah, sure. I can read that.
The changes to expect to see.
Sure, we're gonna go over one of Guy's slides before the end of the meeting today. I'll share on screen.
I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but there's one quick point I think we need.
Yeah, which one
to do here. Actually. Oh, actually, no, okay, let me, right here. Yeah. There we go.
Use 2 fingers to scroll.
Oh. Here. Are we showing that up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone can see it.
This is just when it's gonna impact the used market for EVs. This is the leases that are currently seen with EVs. You can see the plug-in hybrids and the battery electrics over the last year, 1 to 2 years have just shot up. The number of leases down. As the number of leases goes up, so does the return rate. When people turn their leases back in, that starts fueling the used market with creating incredible supply. You can see how much higher those are than they were in the past or than the ICE vehicles are. So that means, given that there's 2 years that has to take place from when those leases go up to when the used market opens up and it starts accepting those, both for incentives and just for returns, that toward the end of next year, we're gonna start seeing a flood of used EVs in the market, and then a reduction in price. This coming next 10 months maybe flat. But if that's something we're gonna get a burst, so if so, looking at buying a used TV, wait 10 months.
Okay,
You know, we can go with that, and then we can do more in some other.
good to know. Nice to.
Yeah, but partly the rise is because only way certain manufacturers were able to get the 7,500
Yeah.
credit was to lease the car.
Right, so that's caused the rise, but the
Yeah.
result of that rise
Yeah,
is in the flooding
yes,
of
I
the
know,
used market.
and it's good for us, but still, part
Yeah,
of it is,
and by the way, that one spike there is the when plug-in hybrids, suddenly people were able to receive the credits.
Ah.
So there's a bunch of pent-up demand that suddenly, boom, hit.
Oh, people are paying attention.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys,
Yeah, thank you, Guy.
and we'll try to hit it in another meeting.
Mhm. So that is the main body of today's meeting. The last bit for today, before we head off. Here at Cool Davis, Chris, if you want to say a few words, please chime in. But we are planning for next year. We are currently still in planning mode, so be on the lookout for messaging for all of our usual events. That includes Loopalooza, if you're into biking around Davis. We also have starting our planning for a picnic day that is going to be taking place April 12th. So we're planning on doing another exhibit plus the parade as usual, so.
And that exhibit has always been shared with SAC-EV, so we're really interested in,
Yeah,
some
great.
leadership from both organizations, participating.
Yeah.
And so April is also Earth Month. And this last year, we've talked a lot, in the leadership group about the potential for planning for a spring event, maybe not Earth Month, but that is focused on business vehicles and trucks. And doing something that is a little bit more oriented towards the business community. So we're really interested in having more people involved in helping us plan that. And we're continuing with our monthly pop-ups at Davis Farmers Market, but we also this year are looking at partnering with Valley Clean Energy to do some vehicle education in other parts of Yolo County, especially Winters and Woodland. So we're really interested in especially connecting with residents of those communities who are already participating in SAC-EV or with DEVA, to talk with you about how we might move forward on planning some events in your community. So those are some exciting things coming for the year, but we're really hoping you'll take the time before you leave tonight to, I don't know, Brendan, if you want to put the link again in.
Just
to answer the survey about your availability and your
Yes.
interests. And finally, we're really interested in hearing about your issue interests. What kinds of things would you like to have the electric vehicle group do this in the coming year? What kinds of things would you like to hear at meetings? Do you have any speakers or topics to suggest that you think are really important for us to be focused on? So all of those things are covered in the survey. But I think we're right at time here, so.
Yeah, we are 1 minute over. So thanks, everyone. Please take the survey if you get a chance. And yeah, this meeting for the 2024 DEVA Association is
done, but we'll stay on if people want to hang out and chat for a little bit. But we're so glad you could join us this evening.
Thank you for setting up the meeting.
Thanks.
Nice to have everybody here, see our new kids.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.